Every evening at 6:30, Ella wiped down the same table near the window. The cafe wasn't fancy. Chipped mugs, uneven chairs under, but it was her little world. A small space where life paused for a while, away from the chaos she had once called home. She had worked there for nearly a year now. Always on time, always quiet, always smiling, but only enough to hide what was breaking inside her. People thought she was shy, but the truth was, she was scared. Scared of being seen, scared of being found. That evening, just like every other, she glanced up when the door opened and saw him again. The man who always sat in the corner booth, dark coat, silver watch, eyes that carried calm and mystery all at once. He never said much, just ordered black coffee. No sugar, no cream. And while others scrolled their phones or talked loudly, he simply watched the rain. There was something strange about him, not in a bad way, but in a way that made Ella feel both safe and uneasy. Like he could see the truth behind her polite smile. His name, she later learned, was Adrian Cole, a businessman, though he never mentioned what kind. People whispered rumors that he owned half the buildings downtown, that he came from old money. But he never carried himself like someone who wanted to be noticed. That night, Ella's hands trembled as she poured his coffee. She didn't know why. Maybe it was his silence, or the way his eyes lingered, not out of interest, but understanding. He noticed. "A rough day?" he asked softly. His voice was calm, deep, and slow, the kind of voice that didn't demand an answer but offered space for one. Ella smiled faintly. "Just tired," she whispered. He nodded once as if he understood things she hadn't said. Then he looked back at the window. Outside, the rain fell harder, and thunder rolled far away, like a reminder that the past never truly stays silent. Later that night, as Ella closed the cafe alone, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her chest tightened. She froze. 3 words flashed on the screen. "I found you." Her hands went cold. She turned off the lights, locked the door, and ran to the back exit, her breath shaking in the dark. It had been 2 years since she escaped. 2 years since she'd changed her name, left her town, her friends, everything. But no matter how far she ran, Mark, her ex-husband, always found a way to remind her she wasn't free. The next day, Ella tried to hide the fear. She smiled for customers, cleaned tables, and pretended nothing was wrong. But when Adrian walked in, she couldn't stop her eyes from meeting his. He paused, studying her quietly. Something about her silence had changed. It was heavier now, like a song stuck between verses. After a moment, he said, "You look like someone waiting for a storm." Ella forced a laugh. "Guess I forgot my umbrella." But her voice cracked. And that was all it took. Adrian's expression softened. He didn't push for answers. He just said quietly, "Then maybe you shouldn't walk home alone tonight." For a second, she wanted to argue, to say she was fine. But something inside her whispered, "Trust him." That evening, he waited outside the cafe as promised. Not too close, not too far. When she came out, she noticed he wasn't looking at her, just watching the street. Hands in his pockets, respectful, calm. They walked in silence. Streetlights flickered. The rain had stopped, but the world still smelled like it. Finally, she spoke. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Adrian looked at her, then at the sky. "Because sometimes," he said softly, "the ones who seem the strongest are just tired of pretending they are." Ella didn't reply. Her eyes burned with tears she refused to show. For the first time in years, walking beside a stranger, she felt safe. Not completely, not yet, but enough to breathe again. Sometimes fate doesn't shout. It whispers, through the quiet kindness of a stranger in the corner booth. The next morning felt lighter somehow. The rain had stopped, and so had the trembling in Ella's hands, and at least for a while. She brewed coffee, arranged pastries, and let the hum of the espresso machine drown out her thoughts. But deep down she knew peace never lasted long. It never had. Adrian Cole walked in right on time. Dark coat, calm presence in the same corner booth. He nodded politely, that quiet smile that said more than words ever could. For a moment, Ella forgot her fears. She poured his coffee, the same order as always. Black, no sugar, no cream. Simple, like him. But today, something in his expression was different. Less distant. More curious. He watched her carefully. "Did you sleep?" he asked. She blinked, surprised. "A little," she lied. Adrian stirred his coffee slowly. You don't have to pretend with me. Ella froze. That sentence and those words, and they cut through her mask like glass. He didn't mean to pry. His tone was gentle, almost protective. But the truth she'd buried for years began to press against her chest. For a long moment, neither spoke. The cafe was quiet except for the soft hiss of steaming milk and the rainwater dripping from the roof outside. Later that afternoon, as the cafe emptied, Adrian stood to leave. But before he did, he placed something on the counter. A small silver card. If you ever need a place to stay, he said quietly, call this number. I have a guest house outside town. It's safe and quiet. Ella stared at the card. Her lips parted, but no words came out. He gave a faint smile, the kind that carried both strength and sadness, then turned and left. The bell above the door chimed, and he was gone. She stood there for a moment, the silver card shining faintly in her trembling hand. She should have thrown it away. She should have stayed invisible. But something inside her whispered, you're tired of running. That night, as she walked home, the streets felt emptier than usual. Every sound echoed too loud. Every shadow looked familiar. Halfway down the block, she stopped. A car was parked across the street, black windows tinted. Her breath caught. She recognized it. It was his car. Mark's. Her pulse raced. She turned, walking faster, clutching her bag. Footsteps echoed behind her. Slow at first, then faster. Her heart pounded. She didn't look back. She just ran. Ella slammed the door to her apartment shut. She leaned against it, shaking. Tears blurred her vision. She pulled out her phone and stared at the silver card. She hesitated for a long moment. Then, with trembling fingers, she dialed the number. 1 ring, 2. A calm voice answered. Adrian Cole. She couldn't speak. Her throat locked up. Ella? His tone softened instantly. Are you safe? A tear rolled down her cheek. I think he found me. There was silence for a heartbeat. Then Adrian said, firm but gentle, stay where you are. I'm coming. It took only 15 minutes, but to Ella, it felt like hours. When he arrived, headlights sliced through the rain-soaked street. He stepped out. Black coat, no umbrella, eyes filled with quiet determination. He didn't ask questions. He just walked her to his car and opened the door. Please, she whispered. I don't want to cause trouble. Adrian met her gaze. You're not trouble, Ella. You're someone who deserves peace. His voice was steady, the kind of strength she'd forgotten existed. She wanted to argue, to say she didn't need saving. But she was too tired, too broken, so she simply nodded and got in. They drove in silence through the night, city lights fading into quiet hills. Outside the window, mist covered the fields. The world looked distant, almost unreal. Finally, they turned down a narrow road lined with trees. A large house came into view, warm lights glowing from inside, the kind that made you believe safety still existed somewhere. Adrian stopped the car. This is the guest house, he said softly. No one knows about it. Ella looked around. Wooden porch, soft lamplight, the smell of rain and cedar. It felt peaceful. He handed her a small key. Get some rest. We'll talk in the morning. She hesitated. Why are you doing this for me? Adrian's expression darkened for a moment, like he was remembering something painful. Because once, he said quietly, someone did it for me. Sometimes the people who save us are the ones who know what it feels like to be lost. For the first time in years, Ella woke up without fear chasing her through the night. The guest house was quiet, too quiet. No voices, no footsteps, no shouting behind closed doors. Only sunlight and the smell of coffee drifting in from somewhere outside. She sat up slowly, remembering the night before. The rain, the chase. Adrian's voice telling her, you deserve peace. Those words echoed in her mind like a promise she wasn't sure she could believe. Come in, she said softly. Adrian stepped in, holding 2 mugs. Morning, he greeted, his tone gentle as always. Morning, she whispered, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. He set 1 mug down beside her. I didn't know how you take it, so I made both versions. One with sugar, one without. A small smile tugged at her lips, the first genuine one in weeks. Thank you. They sat quietly for a moment. No noise, no rush, just the strange comfort of silence that didn't hurt. Adrian looked around the room, then at her. You can stay as long as you need, he said. She hesitated. I don't want to be a burden. He shook his head. You're not. Trust me. The way he said it, soft, certain, made her wonder how many people he'd told the same thing before, and how many had left. That afternoon, Ella stepped outside. The house was surrounded by pine trees, tall and calm like silent guards. A wooden bench sat near the edge of the property. She sat there, breathing in the cold air. For the first time, she allowed herself to simply exist. No hiding, no pretending, just breathing. Then she saw something in the distance. A small grave under an old oak tree. Fresh flowers. A name carved faintly into stone. She moved closer. Her fingers brushed the engraved words. Lily Cole, forever our light. Her heart sank. She turned as she heard Adrian's voice behind her. She was my sister. Ella turned, startled. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It's okay, he interrupted gently. She was younger. She went through something similar to what you did. Ella's breath caught. Her husband. Adrian nodded slowly. He hurt her. For years. And when she finally left, she thought she was safe. But he found her again. He looked away, eyes heavy with unspoken grief. She didn't survive that night. The silence that followed was unbearable. Even the wind seemed to stop. Ella's eyes filled with tears. Adrian, I don't know what to say. You don't have to, he said softly. Just don't go back. Don't let your story end like hers. For a long time, neither spoke. The sun dipped lower, turning the world golden. Finally, Ella whispered, You built this place for her, didn't you? He nodded. After she died, I couldn't stand the city anymore. So I bought this land, built the house, made it a safe place and for anyone who needs it. She looked at him, really looked. For the first time, she saw past the quiet, the money, the calm exterior. She saw the grief, the purpose, the reason behind his silence. And something inside her shifted. Not love, not yet, but trust. The kind that grows slowly, like dawn breaking after a long night. That evening, Adrian made dinner. Simple soup and bread, nothing fancy. They ate in silence, but it wasn't awkward. It was gentle, healing. At one point, she said softly, You remind me of someone I used to know. Before everything. He smiled faintly. Someone good, I hope. She nodded. Someone kind. He looked down, a shadow passing across his face. Kindness is just pain we've learned to use differently. His words lingered in the air, wrapping around the moment like smoke. Later, as she stood by the window, she saw him outside, standing near the old oak tree, staring at his sister's grave. There was something in the way he stood, steady but broken, that mirrored her own reflection in the glass. Sometimes two wounded souls don't find each other to heal the past. They find each other to remember that healing is still possible. Peace never lasts forever, not when your past knows where to find you. It had been 3 quiet days at Adrian's mountain house. 3 days of calm mornings, coffee on the porch, and cautious laughter over breakfast. For the first time, Ella began to believe maybe she could build a new life here. But peace has a sound, and when it disappears, you feel it. That afternoon, the phone rang, once, twice. Then silence. No message. Just the soft static of someone listening. Ella froze mid-step, the tray in her hands trembling. Adrian's voice came from the hallway. Wrong number? She swallowed hard. Maybe. But her eyes betrayed the truth. Later that evening, clouds gathered over the mountains. Adrian lit the fireplace while Ella sat on the couch trying to read. The words blurred. She couldn't focus. The phone call wouldn't leave her mind. Adrian glanced at her. You've been quiet. She forced a small smile. Just tired. But he knew better. Ella, he said softly, what aren't you telling me? She looked up, eyes shimmering in the firelight. He called me last night. From a new number. He said he knows where I am. Adrian set his glass down, his calm mask cracking for the first time. Mark. She nodded, voice breaking. He won't stop, Adrian. He said he'd rather see me dead than free. Adrian stood, running a hand through his hair. I installed cameras around the property. Just in case. You'll be safe here. But safety wasn't something Ella could believe in anymore. Not after everything. She whispered, I don't want to bring trouble to your doorstep. He looked at her and steady, unflinching. You already did. The night you walked in that café, and I didn't mind then either. His words made her eyes well up. Not from fear this time, but from something she hadn't felt in a long while. Belonging. Ella couldn't sleep. She walked into the kitchen. for water and froze when she saw a red light flashing on the security screen. One of the motion sensors near the gate had been triggered. Her throat tightened. "Adrian?" she called softly. Within seconds he was there, his eyes alert, every movement calm but deliberate. He glanced at the monitor. Someone's outside. Ella's breath hitched. It's him. Adrian turned off the interior lights, motioning for her to stay low. "Don't speak. Don't move unless I tell you." Through the rain-streaked window, headlights flashed once, then went dark. A shadow moved near the gate, broad shoulders, deliberate steps. Adrian reached for the phone. "Sheriff's station, please," he whispered. But before he could dial, a loud bang echoed, the gate swinging open. Ella's heart pounded. "He's here." Adrian's eyes stayed fixed on the front door. "Get behind me!" Moments later, heavy footsteps on the porch. A hard knock. "Open up, sweetheart," a voice called out. That voice, rough, confident, dripping with menace. "We need to talk." Adrian's voice was steady but cold. "You need to leave, Mark." A pause, then cruel laughter. "And you must be the billionaire babysitter. You think you can hide her from me?" Ella's body went cold. Every memory she'd tried to bury came roaring back. The shouting, the broken glass, the nights she'd begged for it to stop. Adrian moved closer to the door, calm but coiled with quiet strength. "The police are already on their way." Mark's tone shifted, lower now. "You think a phone call's gonna save her?" "You don't know me, man. I finish what I start." Ella pressed her hands to her ears. She wanted it to stop, and the yelling, the fear, the sound of her heart beating like thunder. Then suddenly silence. Adrian opened the door just enough to see outside, and found the driveway empty. No figure, no headlights, just rain. But when he turned back to Ella, he saw it. The muddy footprints just inside the hallway. He was already inside. Adrian grabbed Ella's wrist and pulled her into the back room. "Stay here," he ordered quietly. "Lock the door and don't come out until I say." "But Adrian—" He looked at her, his expression both fierce and gentle. "I promised I'd protect you. Let me keep that promise." The sound of breaking glass echoed from the front room. Ella bit her lip to stop a scream. She pressed her hands together and whispered, "Please, God, not again." Through the door she heard voices, Adrian's calm tone, Mark's angry snarl. Then a crash. A struggle. When fear returns, it brings with it every ghost you thought you'd buried. But courage is when you stand anyway. Ella unlocked the door, stepping out into the hall. Her body trembled, but her eyes burned with something fierce. She wouldn't run again. Through the living room doorway, she saw them, and Adrian and Mark, facing each other in the dim firelight. And this time she wasn't the one frozen in fear. Sometimes the moment that decides who you'll become doesn't arrive with warning. It arrives in the middle of a storm, when running is no longer an option. Adrian and Mark stood inches apart in the glow of the fire. Mark's eyes burned with rage. Adrian's with something colder, sharper. "You should have stayed out of this," Mark growled, his knuckles tightening. "This is between me and her." Adrian didn't move. "You stopped having a say in her life the moment you hurt her." Mark lunged, shoving him hard against the table. The crash echoed through the cabin. Adrian caught his footing quickly, blocking the next blow. Years of control etched into every movement. "Don't," Adrian warned, his voice low but steady. "Or what?" Mark spat. "You'll buy me off? Like you buy everything else?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "No, I'll stop you from ever touching her again." She saw the fight, raw, desperate, two worlds colliding. The past against the present, fear against courage. "Stop it," she cried, stepping forward. Her voice cracked the silence. Both men froze, the storm's roar filling the gap between them. "Mark," she said, her voice trembling but strong, "you don't get to do this anymore." He laughed, cruel, hollow. "You think you've changed? You'll crawl back, same as always." "No," she whispered. "Not this time." And for the first time she saw it. The fear behind his anger. The control that only worked when she believed in it. Now she didn't. Adrian stepped forward, putting himself between them. "Police are already on their way," he said evenly. "You can walk out now or they'll take you out." Mark sneered. "You think she'll testify?" "She never did before." Ella's hands shook, but she lifted her chin. "I will this time." Those words hit him like a punch. His face twisted, anger breaking into disbelief. "You don't mean that." "I do," she said, her eyes locked on his. "I'm not afraid of you anymore. Mark turned toward the sound, panic flickering for the first time. He took one step back, then another. "You ruined my life," he shouted. "No," Ella said softly. "You did that yourself." The front door burst open. Sheriff's deputies flooded in, flashlights cutting through the dim room. "Hands where we can see them," one ordered. Mark froze, glancing between Ella and Adrian. For a split second, his bravado faltered, replaced by something that almost looked like regret. Then he dropped to his knees. The cuffs clicked shut. Ella sank into the couch, her whole body shaking. Adrian knelt beside her, gently taking her hand. "It's over," he whispered. She looked up, tears spilling freely now, not from fear but release. "I didn't think I'd ever hear those words." Adrian smiled faintly. "You earned them." The world outside glistened, rain-washed, new. A police cruiser idled by the road as deputies finished paperwork. Ella stood on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, watching the sunrise. She felt light, like someone who'd finally stepped out of a long, dark tunnel. Adrian joined her, 2 steaming mugs in hand. "Coffee?" She smiled weakly. "Always." They stood together in silence, the mountains bathed in gold. Every storm ends, not because the sky decides to be kind again, but because even the darkest clouds run out of rain. 6 months later, a small bell rang as a door opened. The sign above read, "The Haven Café." Inside, warm sunlight spilled over wooden tables. Paintings lined the walls, all done by local women who'd rebuilt their lives one brushstroke at a time. Behind the counter, Ella poured coffee with a steady hand and a quiet smile. The place buzzed with laughter, the sound of second chances. Adrian sat in his usual corner seat reading the morning paper. His company logo was gone from the headlines. He'd sold the business, choosing something simpler, real. Ella walked over with a cup of his favorite blend. "Black, 1 sugar," she said. He looked up, smiling. "You remembered." "I remember everything that matters," she said softly. Their eyes met, not with the weight of the past, but the peace of 2 people who'd survived it. Sometimes the stranger who saves you from your past is the same person who helps you build your future. Sometimes love doesn't arrive like lightning. It grows quietly, like the first morning after the storm. If this story touched your heart, remember, healing is real, courage is contagious, and you, yes, you deserve your own fresh start.